After the disappointing box office performance of Jason Takes Manhattan, Paramount Pictures was ready to retire Jason and the Friday the 13th franchise. But then New Line Cinema acquired the rights to Jason Voorhees after having much success with the Nightmare on Elm Street films. And what followed was one of the most divided and unique entries of the famous horror franchise. Greetings all you movie junkies and entertainment lovers, and welcome to another review. Today we're going to be talking about Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. The film begins at Crystal Lake, with Jason Voorhees stalking a seemingly lone woman who turns out to be an undercover FBI agent that leads Jason directly into a trap where an FBI team attacks and blows him to pieces with a grenade launcher. Jason's remains are then sent to the morgue, where his beating heart gets eaten by the coroner? This apparently allows Jason's soul to possess his body, and much like the 1987 film The Hidden, Jason can only stay in a body for so long before he has to find a new host. With Jason trying to possess one of his living relatives, as this is apparently the only way that he can be reborn in his true form, and that only members of Jason's bloodline can permanently kill him for good, or at least until Freddy Krueger decides to resurrect him. This is all explained by a mysterious bounty hunter named Creighton Duke, who somehow knows everything about Jason and how to kill him.
You remember me?
No Creighton, actually we don't. This movie overall is pretty infamous for being extremely disconnected from the rest of the franchise in both tone and story, and it was very hated among its initial release for not having enough Jason and being too far removed from the rest of the franchise. But over the past 30 years, the film has begun to find some new appreciation. Now, the Friday the 13th franchise overall has a pretty shaky timeline, with Jason having practically a different look in each film, and there being an almost entirely different cast for each film as well. But while some of these movies feel more disconnected than others, there was still an overall similar tone and feel with a rough continuity that it followed. But Jason Goes to Hell is even more disconnected than any of the other movies in the franchise, with it introducing radically new elements that were not present for any of the previous movies. With Jason right off the bat being back at Crystal Lake after having previously been melted by toxic waste in the sewers of Manhattan. Kind of a tough plot point to get around, so I can forgive them for that, but it doesn't stop there. Then you have this bounty hunter named Creighton Duke, who is a cool Van Helsing-esque character, but he was never mentioned nor seen in any of the previous movies, and it's never really explained why he knows so much about Jason. Then we have all these relatives of Jason that we've never seen or heard about before, in addition to the Voorhees house, which we've also never seen before as well. And then of course there's the whole body hopping thing. And when Steven first goes to the Voorhees house, he finds the Necronomicon. Yes, the actual Necronomicon from Evil Dead, essentially making this part of the same universe, hinting that that is how Pamela was able to bring Jason back from the dead in the first place, with him essentially being some form of a deadite, which is also why he is apparently able to body hop. Now, as an Evil Dead fan, that's an idea that I can definitely get on board with, and the series had pretty much already gone into full supernatural territory at this point anyway. The only problem that I have is that if Jason has this ability to hop bodies all this time, then why didn't he do this the first time he was killed to death in part 4? And ultimately, this is my main issue with this movie, as it simply just doesn't make sense with the continuity of the other movies. So the only way I think you can truly enjoy this movie is to not connect it to the previous 8 films, because when you do that, suddenly I can believe Jason being back at Crystal Lake. Now I can believe this mysterious bounty hunter with a past connection to Jason who he knows everything about. Now I can believe Jason having all these relatives that we've never seen before. Now I can believe Jason being revived from the Book of the Dead and being able to body hop. Now I can believe that there's this dagger we've never seen before that can also be used to kill him for good by someone from his own bloodline. So, as you can see, just by simply disconnecting the previous 8 movies, suddenly all these continuity problems are not as big of an issue. And honestly, in my own personal headcanon, the 3 New Line Cinema movies are all in their own timeline, also with the Evil Dead and Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. I know this is not exactly what the filmmakers initially intended, but to me it's honestly the only way you can truly enjoy this movie because it just simply doesn't make sense otherwise. And that seems to be how many fans of this film seem to look at it. Because although it doesn't work as a typical Friday the 13th movie, it is a legitimately well-made film, with terrific effects by K&B and a solid cast of characters that are some of the more memorable in the franchise. And overall, I commend them for actually trying to do something radically different from the previous movies. And I actually think it's a pretty enjoyable horror movie overall. Where it ultimately fails is as a Friday the 13th movie due to its continuity errors with the rest of the franchise and just trying to push it in too much of a new direction. Now, had it been just the 3rd or 4th movie in the series, it may have not been as bad, but because this is the 9th installment, there's just too many radically new elements that are introduced in this film that alienate longtime fans of the franchise. But like I said before, it depends heavily on your own personal perspective and how you look at it. I think it's a good horror movie overall, but perhaps not a great Friday the 13th movie. Thanks for watching this review. Be sure to subscribe for more videos. Until next time, be sure to consume as much entertainment as humanly possible, and I'll see you in the next video.